My name is James, and my world was a meticulously organized rhythm of routine and quiet vigilance, a retired, decorated operative from a classified intelligence agency, now running a small, unassuming tech consultancy. My days were defined by suburban normalcy, layered with the constant, cold awareness of potential threats and operational protocol. I was settled? Yes, but also perpetually watchful, compartmentalized, and entirely dependent on the tranquility of my domestic life. My suburban home, outwardly peaceful, was an expensive extension of my deep cover. It was during a seemingly ordinary review of our shared finances and activity I monitored with the practiced eye of a security analyst that my carefully constructed peace was violently disrupted. I discovered a massive, high-risk loan taken out against our assets. She was Sarah, my wife, the anchor of my new life. She was 35, sharp-witted, but currently brittle with secrecy. She was lying poorly about the purpose of the loan, citing a family investment. To me, the devoted husband, this was a reckless, unforgivable betrayal of trust. I saw the sudden financial exposure and immediately concluded she was either being blackmailed or involved in something dangerous. Sarah, everything all right. You've leveraged our future, I stated, confronting her in the kitchen, my voice low and precise. She was visibly panicked. James, what are you doing in the accounts? It's fine. It's just a long-term investment. I was guarded, heartbroken by the obvious deception. Investment, that interest rate, that kind of exposure. What exactly is the asset? She didn't offer excuses or details. She simply looked away, her eyes scanning the room, not meeting mine. Mind if I ask you to trust me? James, I hesitated, the professional operative warring with the betrayed husband, but my internal protocols were screaming. You know what you're doing, putting a target on our back. Enough to protect it, she replied with a small, quiet conviction that echoed my own operational training. I watched her quietly, methodically, as she began to move funds, liquidate small assets, and meet with unknown, shadowy figures. I found myself breaking my own rule, the desire to maintain the illusion of ignorance and running background checks on her new contacts. Where did the need for this money come from? Sarah, what kind of debt is this? It's an old obligation, she stated, the term she used a recognized code phrase from my agency's operations handbook. I learned the funds were being routed through shell companies to cover a historical liability, a large, unsecured payout from years ago. She shrugged off my question about the danger with genuine stoicism. Sometimes you just have to pay the price to get free. When the money transfer was complete, a massive, silent drain on our stability, I stared at the empty screen of my bank account, then back at her calm, unsettling demeanor. You don't want anything from me? I asked, reaching for the truth I already suspected. She chuckled softly, a sound of genuine, weary relief. I wanted your silence, James, nothing more. We stood in silence, two operatives from the same shadow world, briefly bound by a shared, explosive secret and a dangerous masquerade. I managed only her name, Sarah, and a single, coded question, Protocol Delta. She nodded once, confirming my worst, most calculated fear. She was running a sting. She was infiltrating the organization that was still, secretly, threatening me. The hours that followed were a cold rush of operational planning. My mind returned to the original liability. The old obligation was a known, untraceable slush fund used by the remnants of my former agency, a rogue faction that I had been tasked with retiring permanently. Clara hadn't betrayed me. She was protecting me. The debt wasn't hers. It was the agency's, and she was using the payment as a high-stakes entry fee. The next morning, back in my secure office, I found the encrypted file I needed, the original agency ledger containing details of the slush fund. I tasked my operational contact with the impossible, providing immediate, silent support for a covert counter-operation being run by my wife. I knew it was dangerous, but a part of me, a part that demanded loyalty, had been fiercely reawakened. I needed to ensure her safety. After 2 days of relentless, agonizing monitoring of her movements and communications, my contact returned with the final, thrilling confirmation. Sarah was using the loan to pay a long-standing informant within the rogue faction, dismantling their finances from the inside out. The money was merely a decoy to access the inner circle. "Initiate phase gamma," I commanded, my heart pounding with professional focus. I didn't know what the final confrontation would look like, only that her courage had bought us a decisive advantage. I had spent years dealing with cold intelligence, but this simple act of sacrificial love felt like the most important mission of my life. I found her in a secure, undisclosed safe house far from the city. She was reviewing digital evidence when I called her real operational codename. She froze, turning slowly, recognizing the authority in my voice. "You knew?" she asked, utterly defeated. "I'm sorry to show up like this," I said, a rare note of genuine pride in my voice. "I came because I knew you needed backup. I knew about the debt from the beginning." She was shocked, but listened as I spoke from the position of a concerned partner. "I haven't been able to forget what you did," I confessed. "Not just risking our finances, but risking your life to protect my past. That kind of selfless courage is rare where I come from." I saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of the mission, and I asked her the pivotal question: "If you had the choice, what would you really want to happen now?" She hesitated, dropping her professional guard. "I don't know if it matters. We're never truly safe." That's when I extended my hand, not with an apology for monitoring her, but with an offer of mutual defense. It wasn't about the debt, it was about the loyalty. It was an invitation, a formal offer to execute the final phase of the operation together. Using my resources and her access, we needed to finish the mission, ensuring the threat was grounded in history, not our future. She took my hand, a look of profound relief washing over her, and I gave her the final honest message: "You saw me as the weakness you had to protect. I see you as the strength I need to survive. Let's close this file together." 2 mornings later, Sarah and I stood side by side in a secure facility, no longer husband and wife, but partners on a final, definitive operation. She was dressed in her standard, quiet clothes, but she held her head high. I welcomed her warmly, telling her, "It's not a secret anymore. It's a joint mission. You leveraged everything you had. I needed your access and your blind courage to dismantle the past and ensure our future was truly free." The weeks that followed were a challenge for the rogue faction, filled with financial chaos and internal breakdown, but Sarah and I stayed close, trusting each other implicitly, and slowly, the truth of her sacrifice began to heal the temporary wound in our marriage. In a strategy meeting about securing our retirement, when people were talking about new investments and trusts, Sarah simply cleared her throat and said, "If we want to be safe, we must eliminate the threat entirely, not just manage the risk." The room went silent and then erupted in agreement. I realized I had invited her into a life of peace, but she had ended up saving us both through a necessary war. A year passed. Sarah and I, now truly retired, stood on a quiet beach, watching the waves. She spoke about the cost of freedom and the power of true partnership, thanking me for finally trusting her actions over her words. I stood beside her, radiating quiet gratitude. That night, the two of us drove back to our quiet, unassuming home. As the quiet breeze brushed our faces, I placed a small custom keyring, shaped like a miniature, intricate safe, in Sarah's hand. Engraved on it were 4 words that summarized everything. "One bold secret secures everything." She looked at the quiet house, then at me. "It really does, doesn't it, James?" she whispered. We had come full circle, finding safety, honesty, and a profound connection, not through domestic tranquility or blind faith, but through the overwhelming, life-altering power of a single, shared sacrifice that secured our peace.